What happens when a beloved morning show host decides they've had enough of royal excuses and entitlement? You're about to find out. The clash between Mark Consuelos, Kelly Ripa, and Prince Harry on Live with Kelly and Mark became one of the most talked about moments in recent TV history. Before we dive into this dramatic encounter, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments, especially about celebrities who cross the line on live television. Morning, the studio lights glowed brightly, casting their familiar warmth across the vibrant live set. Kelly Ripa sat poised, her signature blonde hair perfectly styled, and dressed in a sharp white blazer that nearly shimmered under the lights. Mark Consuelos, looking polished in a navy blue suit, gave his tie one final adjustment as producers counted down. But there was a different energy in the air, a tension that neither host could quite name. Prince Harry entered with his usual confident stride, dressed in a sleek, charcoal gray suit that looked expensive yet felt oddly formal. For the relaxed vibe of the show, his smile, polished from countless public appearances, didn't quite reach his eyes, and he didn't seem entirely at ease. As he took his seat, he scanned the studio with what could only be described as mild disdain. Kelly leaned forward, her trademark enthusiasm intact, her voice radiating that classic morning show brightness that made her a household name. Prince Harry, thank you so much for joining us today. We know your schedule is packed with projects and initiatives, so we really appreciate you making time to be here. Harry shifted in his seat, his posture stiffening slightly as he met her gaze. Well, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure why I'm here. My publicist insisted this would help my image. But frankly, I've got more important things to do than sit on an American morning show discussing trivial topics. The words hit like a brick. Mark's brow lifted, his expression shifting from warm host to something more cautious. Kelly kept her professional smile, but those who knew her could spot the brief flash of irritation in her eyes. I see, she replied, her tone still polished, but edged with coldness. Well, we appreciate your honesty, and I'm sure our viewers will too. Perhaps you can tell us a bit about your recent charitable work since you mentioned having more important matters to attend to. Harry leaned back and crossed his arms, a defensive posture that didn't go unnoticed. Look, I've been doing charity work my whole life. I was born into it, raised in it, and I continue because it's expected. But what I really want to talk about is how the media, including shows like this, constantly misrepresent me and my family. Mark leaned in, sensing the shift in tone. That's interesting. Harry, can you give us specific examples of how you feel misrepresented? I think our viewers would really like to understand your perspective. Where do I even start? Harry said, his voice rising slightly, his control beginning to slip. Everything I do is twisted into something negative. I try to protect my family. I'm called controlling. I speak out about injustice. I'm whining. I move to escape constant harassment. I'm abandoning my responsibilities. It's exhausting. And honestly, I'm done pretending I should be thankful for any media attention. Kelly placed her coffee mug on the table, a little harder than necessary, the sharp clink echoing. You know what, Harry? I think a lot of people understand that being in the public eye is hard. But you chose to do tell-all interviews. You chose to publish a book exposing private family conversations. And you chose to sign million-dollar deals to share your story. You can't have it both ways. The studio went silent, save for the quiet hum of the cameras and the soft movements of the crew. Harry's face turned red. His hands gripped the chair arms so tightly, his knuckles whitened. You have no idea what you're talking about. You sit here in your cushy little studio, making small talk and interviewing celebs about their new movies. And you think you understand what it's like to have your entire life dissected by strangers. Mark felt the tension spike and tried to guide things back to safer ground. Harry, I think what Kelly's trying to say, Mark began, is that when you share deeply personal matters publicly, it naturally opens the door for discussion and, yes, sometimes criticism. That's just the nature of today's media environment. Don't patronize me, Harry snapped, abandoning all pretense of royal restraint. I know exactly what she meant and it was completely out of line. I didn't come here to be lectured by morning show hosts about my life decisions. I came here as a courtesy, and this is the treatment I receive. Kelly's professional mask dropped entirely. Her voice now carried a sharp edge that longtime viewers rarely heard. A courtesy? You came here as a courtesy, she shot back. Let me explain something, Prince Harry. We've hosted presidents, Oscar winners, Nobel laureates, and real heroes, none of whom have ever shown us the kind of disrespect you've displayed since the moment you sat in that chair. Oh, please, Harry scoffed, rolling his eyes. Don't compare me to your parade of American celebrities and politicians. I'm a member of the British royal family. I've dedicated my life to service while you've spent yours entertaining housewives and retirees. The insults hung in the air like a cloud of smoke. Mark's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, speaking in a low, firm voice. You might want to watch yourself. Harry, you didn't just insult my wife, you insulted everyone who watches this show and believes in what we do. Harry suddenly stood, his chair sliding backward with a scrape. Your wife? Oh, that's rich. The mighty Mark, playing the protector. How very American. What's next? Are you going to threaten me? Mark stood as well. Slower, more controlled, but the intensity in his gaze made the entire studio fall silent. I don't need to threaten anyone, he said evenly. But I'll say this, insult me all you want. But when you disrespect my wife and the millions who tune in to watch this show every day, you cross a line. One you don't get to cross. Harry laughed, but the sound was bitter and empty. Oh, how noble the great defender of morning television. Do you know who you're talking to? I've met world leaders. I've dined with presidents. I've sat across from the most powerful people on earth, and you think I'm going to be intimidated by a soap actor who lucked into a TV gig by marrying well? Kelly rose from her seat too, her petite frame somehow commanding the entire room. Her voice cut through the tension like a blade. That's enough. I've done this job for more than 20 years. Everything I've achieved, I earned through hard work, discipline, and respect. You clearly don't know the meaning of any of those things. You want to talk about power. Let me explain real power, Harry. It's making people feel seen. It's using your platform to lift others, not tear them down. You're lecturing me about power. Harry's voice was thick with disbelief. His face twisted with anger. You gossip about celebrities and joke around with cooking segments. I was born into a 1,000-year institution that shaped history. My ancestors ruled empires. Your biggest accomplishment is chatting with movie stars promoting their latest flick. Mark stepped closer, not in a threatening way, but with the quiet focus of someone making sure every word landed. Your bloodline, your institution, your royal heritage, Kelly said, her voice cool but direct. That's all you've got, isn't it? You've spent so much time talking about how hard your life's been, how unfairly you've been treated, how much you've suffered. But here's the truth, without that title, without the royal lineage you constantly bring up, what have you actually accomplished on your own? The question hit Harry like a blow. His mouth opened and closed a few times, searching for words. His face flushed in waves of red and purple as he struggled to respond. How dare you question my accomplishments? He finally snapped. I served in the military. I've raised millions for charity. I've used my platform to spotlight important causes across the globe. All of which, Kelly cut in, her voice calm but unyielding. You've been able to do because of the very institution you keep criticizing, she continued without pause. The military welcomed you because of your status. Charities lined up to work with you because of your title. The causes you support get attention because of your royal connection, so don't stand there and act like you've overcome massive obstacles when your entire life has been shaped by privilege. Harry's hands trembled, whether with rage or something deeper. It wasn't clear. You don't understand, he said through clenched teeth. The pressure, the constant scrutiny, the complete lack of privacy. You can't understand what it's like to live under that kind of microscope. You're absolutely right, Mark said, his tone conversational but edged with steel. We can't understand that kind of pressure. But do you know what we can understand? We understand what it means to earn everything through hard work. We understand what it feels like to be grateful for opportunities, not entitled to them. And, most of all, we understand the importance of treating people with basic human decency. Basic human decency. Harry sputtered, now visibly unraveling. You've been attacking me since the moment I said I had more important things to do than sit here and play along with your morning show circus. You've questioned my achievements, dismissed my service, and insulted my character, and now you want to preach to me about decency. Kelly stepped around the coffee table and stood directly in front of him, her voice dropping to a level that somehow felt louder than a shout. We've simply responded to your behavior. Harry, you walked into our studio, you sat in our guest chair, and from your very first answer, you made it crystal clear you thought you were above us, that we were beneath you, that our viewers weren't worth your time. Everything that's happened since, it's a reaction to the disrespect you showed from the second you arrived. I was just being honest about how I felt being here, Harry said, but the certainty in his voice had faded. I thought Americans valued honesty and directness. Isn't that part of your cultural identity? Mark shook his head slowly, disappointment plain on his face. There's a difference between being honest and being disrespectful. Harry, you could have said you were anxious about doing live TV. You could have said you weren't sure what to expect, or that you preferred more serious interviews. But instead, you mocked our show, belittled our work, and by doing so, insulted everyone who supports it. That's not honesty. That's arrogance. Arrogance. Harry echoed, his voice cracking under the word. I'm not arrogant. I'm tired. I'm exhausted from having to pretend like everything I do is wonderful and perfect, when most of the time, it feels meaningless. Do you have any idea what it's like to cut ribbons, shake hands, and make small talk about nothing while knowing there are real problems out there that need real solutions? Actually, yes, Kelly replied, her voice softening, though her resolve didn't waver. We spend our days talking to people about their projects, their causes, their dreams, and their struggles. Kelly said, and the difference is, we find meaning in those conversations, because we understand that human connection matters. Making people feel heard and seen matters. Sometimes, small talk, ribbon cuttings, and handshakes are exactly what someone needs to feel a little less alone in the world. Harry stared at her, his breathing heavy, chest rising and falling. So what? He finally said. I'm supposed to pretend that every charity gala, every public appearance, every interview is the most important thing in the world. I'm supposed to smile, nod, and act grateful for being paraded around like some trained monkey. No, Mark replied firmly. You're supposed to recognize that you've been given chances most people on this planet will never get. And instead of complaining about how difficult it is to have those opportunities, maybe just maybe you should focus on using them to make a difference, instead of constantly casting yourself as the victim. The silence that followed was thick with tension. The challenge in Mark's words lingered in the air. Harry's expression shifted shock, then anger, then something like realization. But the flicker of self-awareness was quickly extinguished by pride. Make myself the victim, he said bitterly. I'm not making myself anything. I am the victim. I've been the victim my entire life. And the fact that you can't see that just proves how out of touch you are with reality. Kelly let out a short sound, half sigh, half incredulous laugh. Harry, listen to yourself. You're a grown man with more wealth, influence, and access than nearly anyone else alive. And here you are, in our studio, throwing a tantrum because 2 morning show hosts had the nerve to suggest that maybe, just maybe, you should be grateful for what you have instead of bitter over what you don't. I'm not throwing a tantrum, Harry shot back, but even as he said it, his voice rose close to a shout. I'm explaining why your narrow view of my situation is completely off. You think because I have money and a title that I should just shut up and take whatever criticism comes my way. You think privilege means I don't get to have feelings, or opinions, or defend myself when I'm attacked. Mark stepped forward, again, not aggressively, but with calm, quiet authority that commanded attention. Nobody's saying you can't have feelings, Harry. What we're saying is your feelings don't give you the right to treat others poorly. Whatever pain you carry doesn't justify walking into our workplace and insulting us, our work, and our audience. He paused, letting the weight of the words settle. Your struggles, whether real or imagined, don't give you a free pass to be disrespectful to people who've done nothing but welcome you. Done nothing to me, Harry said, his voice rising, disbelief twisting his features. He gestured wildly with his hands. You've spent the last 20 minutes tearing me apart. You've questioned my life, my choices, my character, and you think that's nothing? This is exactly the kind of treatment I get everywhere I go. Kelly stepped in closer, her voice now barely above a whisper, low, deliberate, and sharper than ever. Harry, we didn't start this conversation by attacking you. We welcomed you. We thanked you for being here. We asked you polite questions about your charitable work, and you responded by telling us you had better things to do than be here. You dismissed our show as trivial. You made it clear you thought you were too important to be sitting across from us. She held his gaze, unwavering. Everything that's happened since then, you're just reaping what you sowed. That's not what happened, Harry said, protesting, but now his voice lacked the edge it carried before. But his voice no longer carried conviction. For the first time since the confrontation began, uncertainty flickered across Harry's face. I was just being honest about how I felt, he said. I didn't mean to insult anyone, but you did, Mark replied quietly. Whether it was intentional or not, you did. And when we tried to address it respectfully, you doubled down. When we explained why your comments were hurtful, you escalated. And when we tried to have a real conversation about your behavior, you hid behind your title like it was some kind of shield to excuse you from accountability. Harry glanced around the studio, as though seeing it clearly for the first time, the camera operators frozen in place, the crew standing silently, and the producers urgently whispering behind the glass. For just a moment, something resembling shame passed across his features, but it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by a flash of defiance. Fine, he snapped, voice sharp and brittle. You want to know what I really think? I think this whole setup is beneath me. Your little morning show is a joke. Your questions are shallow. And the fact that millions tune in to watch you chat with celebrities while the world falls apart, that is what's wrong with society. Silence followed, thick, absolute. Even the cameras seemed to stop humming. Kelly and Mark exchanged a single look, the kind shared only between people who had worked together for years. It was silent, but it said everything. Kelly turned to Harry. You know what, Harry? You're absolutely right. This show is beneath you. Our questions are far too shallow for someone of your intellect. Our audience far too simple to grasp your complexity, and our studio clearly far too small to contain your towering sense of self-importance. Mark stepped beside her, standing shoulder to shoulder in quiet unity. Their presence, together, felt unshakable. And that, he said, is why we think it's best that you leave. Now, We're not going to sit here, Kelly added, and keep being insulted by someone who doesn't want to be here and who's made it very clear that he has no respect for us, our work, or the people who watch this show. Harry's mouth parted, stunned. You're kicking me off your show, he said. Do you have any idea what kind of consequences this could have? Do you know who I am? The backlash this could bring? We know exactly who you are, Kelly said, voice steady. You're someone who walked into our studio with arrogance, who spent the last 30 minutes disrespecting us, our team, and our viewers, and who thinks a royal title means never having to face consequences. Well, here are your consequences. You are no longer welcome here. Mark motioned toward the exit. The movement was controlled, firm, final. Our security will escort you out, he said. We'll be editing this segment before it airs, and we'll be making it very clear to our audience that your behavior was unacceptable and that we do not tolerate this kind of disrespect on our show. For a second, Harry didn't move. He stood frozen, as if weighing whether to defend himself one last time or simply walk away. But pride made the choice for him. This is a mistake, he warned, his voice low, threatening. You don't know what you're doing or who you're crossing. This won't end well for either of you. Kelly gave a tight, composed smile. Security, she said calmly. Please escort Prince Harry out of the building. She turned to him one last time. And Harry, if you ever decide you're ready for an actual conversation like an adult, you know where to find us. As security approached, Harry straightened his jacket and lifted his chin high in emotion that might have once read as dignified if not for the hollow silence that followed. But instead, his words came off as petulant. You'll regret this, he said. The threat landed flat-sounding, more desperate than dangerous. The only thing we regret, Mark replied as Harry was escorted to the exit, is wasting 30 minutes of our viewers' time on someone who clearly wasn't worth it. The studio door shut behind Harry with a firm click that echoed in the sudden stillness. For a moment, Kelly and Mark remained standing, the tension of the encounter still settling in the room. Then, Kelly turned to the camera, her signature smile returning. Well, she said, her voice once again composed and upbeat. That certainly wasn't how we expected our morning to go, but sometimes, doing what's right means being uncomfortable. Mark nodded, calmly taking his seat again as if it were just another segment. That's exactly right, he said. We have the utmost respect for our guests, our viewers, and the integrity of this show, and when someone comes into our space and disrespects any of that, we won't ignore it. Kelly faced the camera again, her tone now steady and sincere. We hope you understand why we made the decision we did, and we want to be clear. We will always stand up for the values this show represents: respect, kindness, and real connection with the people who matter most. You, our incredible viewers. She paused briefly, then added with a gentle smile, what did you think of this unexpected confrontation? Was Mark and Kelly's response justified, or do you think it should have been handled differently? Subscribe for more stories like this one, and to tell us in the comments what you think happens when celebrity ego collides with live television.